The arena hung in the void like a war god's eyeball, enormous, veined with glowing filigree, and unblinkingly monstrous. Orbiting a binary star that flared like a mad drummer cymbals, the Colosseum of species supremacy promised one thing to every sentient being tuned in across 1,000 star channels: spectacle soaked in significance and just enough blood to be considered tasteful. From orbit, it resembled a silver sunflower blooming in slow motion. Up close, it was chaos pretending to be order. The crowd inside, the diplomats, soldiers, degenerates, and billionaires, represented a cross-section of galactic authority and absolute nonsense. Vrax beetle barons in lacquered exosuits hissed with anticipation. Cloud-like beings from Ith-Krull hovered in sealed glass orbs, smelling faintly of melon and malevolence. A fungal noble from the spore-shade courts sprouted a new limb out of sheer enthusiasm. They'd come for war made palatable. For the dance of sanctioned murder that was the Intergalactic Combat Conclave, ICC for short, a name that simultaneously undersold and oversold what it entailed. It was not merely sport. It was politics by proxy, imperialism with ring lights. Each match was a negotiation writ in bruises, a treaty expressed in tendon tears. For some species, this was sacred. For others, it was a reason to drink and throw credits at the odds houses. For Earth it was, at best, a bad joke that had gotten out of hand. A glimmering cube above the arena pulsed with alien glyphs, constantly updating the betting odds. In real time, entire economies fluctuated with each new fighter's entrance. The screen currently displayed. Current match. Vrax Dominion. Torquezune the Eternal Husk. Earth. Mira Ramirez, human. Torquezune. 1 minute and 1.01 seconds. Ramirez. 1:9000. Outcome. Death likely, for Ramirez. A two-headed announcer, genetically engineered for vocal range and sensationalism, boomed across the arena's psychosonic channels. Lords and mutations, welcome to the melee that may offend your gods. Thunderous applause, accompanied by the unsettling slither of tentacles against metal. In the north corner, weighing in at several units of dread, the scourge of 7 systems, the war child of VRAX, Torquezune and the Eternal Husk. Torquezune emerged, flanked by a team of lesser warriors who chanted in pheromone pulses. His carapace shimmered like obsidian oil, his limbs ending in cruel blades that clicked with eager anticipation. 2 mandibles scraped against each other rhythmically, a sound that made nearby jelly beings emit alarm-colored spores. The camera drones zoomed in, tracking his every movement. Torquezune did not wave to the crowd. He didn't need to. His legend walked before him, armed with tales of duels where opponents dissolved mid-scream. And in the south corner, the announcers continued, with a distinct tonal drop, representing that quirky little death world we all know and pity, please welcome Mira Ramirez of Earth. There was a beat. Then a longer beat. Then, footsteps. Mira emerged alone. No entourage, no banners, no pheromone choir. Just a woman in loose earth-tone fatigues and boots so caked with real dirt they offended several cleanliness-oriented species. A vine, possibly decorative or possibly deadly, wrapped around her left forearm. She was chewing something, green, fibrous, and her eyes never lifted from the terrain before her. To the vast alien audience, she looked underwhelming. Small. Squishy. She had no spikes, no battle aura, no dripping weapon. There was no war chant, no ritual offering, no flames. Just a slow, even walk and a complete refusal to play the part. Some aliens laughed, an assortment of trills, clicks, and wet flaps that, translated, mostly meant, how cute. A sentient coral cluster in the VIP box turned to the Earth ambassador and asked, "Is this a joke offering?" The ambassador, whose name was intentionally unpronounceable to discourage interviews, offered a diplomatic smile. "We believe in cultural surprises." Mira reached the center and stopped. The ground was a simulated composite of various terrains, intended to level the playing field. It failed entirely. Quadrant 1 was jungle, Quadrant 2 was Arctic, Quadrant 3 a gravity-altered desert, and Quadrant 4, some kind of gelatin swamp currently burping. She took one step into the jungle quadrant and knelt, pinching a bit of dirt between her fingers. She sniffed it. Smiled. No one noticed, except one of the arena's scent-analyzing satellites, which quietly noted an uptick in cortisol from 3 nearby competitors watching the feed. The commentators attempted to manufacture suspense. What strategy, if any, could the human hope to employ today, Folm? Survival instinct, menth, or perhaps prayer. A deep rumble rolled across the arena as Torkzoon's challenge roar shook the stadium plating. One of his limbs struck the ground, splitting a nearby boulder with casual precision. Mira stood, brushed her hands on her thighs, and looked up at him with the expression of someone who had just remembered she left the oven on. He clicked something in his native language, translated roughly to, "Submit, mammal, and I will make your end less artistic." She raised one eyebrow. "You'll have to speak up." "I don't speak bug." The crowd gasped. S.H. Leith representative spilled his mimic wine. Somewhere, a betting terminal spontaneously combusted. Still chewing, Mira stepped back into the jungle quadrant and crouched again. Her fingers brushed a root cluster, then her eyes scanned the canopy. No weapon. No armor. No backup. Just a woman with a vine and a 1,000-yard stare. In a luxury box above, Galactic bureaucrat Yiltak Vorth clutched a diplomatic datapad and muttered, "If she dies too quickly, Earth will file another ethics complaint. I'm already 3 grievances behind." Across from him, a Vrax noble snorted. "Then perhaps you should have brought someone with claws." Yiltak smiled weakly. "We tried. They all refused." Something about the jungle girl being the only one who volunteered. "Suicidal," the noble muttered approvingly. Back in the arena, the pre-fight rituals were beginning. Torkzoon began his species' ceremonial consumption, gnawing the desiccated carapace of his previous opponent while intoning an ancient war dirge through his spiracles. It was considered deeply moving if you enjoyed the sound of metal being digested. Mira sat cross-legged, leaned back on her elbows, and watched the fake sky shift from pink to violent blue. She looked for all the universe like she was waiting for a bus. Her mind, however, was cataloging the arena's flaws. The soil wasn't just simulated, it had biological inconsistencies. Too dry in the lower canopy. Some of the plants had memory fibers. The heat signature under Quadrant 1 wasn't matching the overhead pattern. That meant something was wrong with the cooling vents. That meant something could be used. The arena darkened as the fight countdown began. A deep pulse vibrated through every being in the stadium, from the deepest blood sacs to the highest neural chimneys. 10, 9, 8. The camera zoomed on Myra's face. 7, 6. No fear. Just calibration. 5, 4. Torkzoon's blades unfolded like wings of death. 3, 2. Myra's eyes narrowed by a millimeter. 1. Begin. And then, blackout. The stadium lights vanished for precisely 1.7 seconds. When they returned, Mira was gone. No teleportation. No cheat. Just a gone. The crowd murmured, alien limbs flailing as visual sensors recalibrated. Drones scrambled to track her. Torkzoon's head swiveled, emitting short-range pulses. His sensors, sharper than a hawk's, scanned for movement. Nothing. Above, the announcers scrambled to recover. "Well, Menth, it seems the human has opted for an unconventional approach. Camouflage, running away, dying quietly." In the jungle quadrant, something rustled. Torkzoon took a step, blades twitching. In the stands, diplomats leaned forward. The laughter had softened. Even the betting odds hesitated. On a galactic scale, this wasn't war. But to one woman, with dirt on her boots and equations in her breath, this was home. She was jungle-born. She was silence. She was Ghost Leaf. And she had just made the first move. The silence that followed Myra's disappearance wasn't quiet. It was weaponized confusion, sharpened into tension. The kind of silence where even multi-lunged creatures forgot to breathe. A hush powered by disbelief and thick with anticipation. Torkzoon didn't panic. Panic was a concept reserved for organisms with soft skin and weaker instincts. Instead, his clawed forelimbs rose in deliberate arcs, blades angling toward possible vectors of attack. His back limbs dug fractionally into the soil for traction. His spiracles opened wider to pull in microchemical traces. Nothing. The jungle quadrant pulsed with artificial heat, humid and heavy with plant respiration. Leaves swayed, vines creaked, but not one movement betrayed her. His compound eyes scanned, filtered, recalibrated. Then again. Still nothing. To the audience, he remained a paragon of composure. Unshaken. Unstoppable. But inside, even his hive-trained instincts had to admit, this wasn't how these things usually started. Across the arena, in one of the Vrax Dominion's luxury viewing pods, Minister Charik unspooled a length of silk mucus and muttered to no one in particular. She vanishes well. Perhaps Earth has finally learned mimicry. Or perhaps, croaked the Shik diplomat beside him, you've underestimated the only species that trains snipers in forests they once tried to burn. Charik's mandibles twitched irritably. Somewhere below, in the arboreal quadrant, Mira watched her target shift posture. She didn't breathe so much as vent. One long, slow exhalation synchronized to the movement of the leaves above. Her body was buried under a thicket of mimetic fronds. Her clothes, infused with optically adaptive fibers, adjusted to match their tone. No tech, just fabric and silence. Not because tech wasn't available, but because she didn't need it. Her mind clicked through calculations. He was faster, taller. He had visual coverage in every direction, auditory canals that filtered out redundant frequencies, and a circulatory system that could reroute blood flow around trauma. But he had one fatal flaw. He thought she was prey. She closed her left eye to recalibrate her depth field. Not yet. Not here. 2 meters above her, a plant released a burst of iridescent spores. She noted the wind shift. Her eyes narrowed. 3 steps to the left and she could trigger the first planned misdirection. But still, not yet. Instead, she allowed herself the rare indulgence of memory. Not childhood. That was irrelevant. No montages of forests or mentors. Just the war. The Amazon Reclamation Theater. Year 12. Mira crawling through mud that burned like battery acid. Jungle foliage grown too wild from atmospheric mutations. Her team, 11 operators, 8 of whom never made it out. Snipers weren't supposed to be seen, weren't supposed to lead. But when command failed, she did what jungle did, adapted. And vanished. She'd led that unit, bleeding and blind, through 70 kilometers of hostile canopy. She killed 7 drones, 5 mech units, and 1 genetically bred jaguar that no longer responded to pain. When they found her, a month later, she was eating moss and humming. After debrief, she turned down every medal. She didn't want to be a hero. She wanted the jungle. Now, her HUD flickered. Not a full display, just a faint overlay across her vision. No bright lights. No sound. She kept it minimal. Heartbeat monitors, wind vectors, thermal differentials. And the enemy, outlined in dull red, Torque-Zune. Still standing in the clearing like a monument to imperial arrogance. Above them, the broadcast panned between his still form and the jungle's churning green. Commentators whispered now, the volume dialed down to hushed reverence. The Vrax champion appears unfazed. Unfazed or unaware, Menth. Same difference when your chitin is blast-rated. In the stands, some of the laughter had curdled into concern. Humans were supposed to be amusing. Occasionally fierce, yes, but mainly good for surprising underdog narratives, inspirational speeches, and sometimes funky food. This woman wasn't delivering a performance. She was hunting. Torque-Zune shifted. He moved 2 paces toward the undergrowth and extended his primary claw forward, slicing through a branch with indifferent precision. Still nothing. His internal cortex spun through its own history, glories past, battles won. He had once defeated a predator drone using only his shadow. He'd ended the siege of Charos IV by entering single combat with its top general, a creature composed entirely of liquefied razorbirds. He'd survived a sunstorm. Mated during one. Became the youngest Vrax to hold the title of Eternal Husk, a name passed only to those who could kill without error. He'd trained under the Echo Talons, fought on anti-gravity reefs, walked into black holes for sport. This This was a formality. The galaxy required dominance reaffirmed. And Earth was a newly admitted mammalian novelty. His mistake wasn't underestimation. It was categorization. He assumed this opponent fit a profile. And profiles, Mira knew, could be rewritten. She slid backward beneath the foliage, breath shallow, elbows dragging in deliberate arcs to avoid compressing the leaves unnaturally. Every twitch of her muscle was informed by 1,000 rehearsals, each micro-movement refined through boredom, failure, and near-death experience. She recalled what the Vrax physiology file had said. Thoracic armor, triply reinforced. Auditory pit, low-tone sensitive. Neural bundle, centralized, but retractable. Visual spectrum, broad, but with heat preference. And the last note, written by someone with more optimism than experience, engage only with significant numerical advantage. Mira had never liked crowds. She reached the drop zone. A branch overhead that arced out like a skeletal finger. She clambered silently, knees brushing bark worn smooth by thousands of non-existent footsteps. Below her, Torkzoon stepped forward again. Almost curious now. Not alert. Curious. She pulled a sliver of metal from the inside of her sleeve. A blade, human-forged, carbon-tempered. The handle was worn smooth where her thumb sat. Not a weapon by Vrax standards. A joke, really. She rested it on her thigh. Her breath came slow. Not shallow, slow. To the audience, nothing changed. The screen continued to flicker between target and void, champion and vegetation. Some of them began to murmur. What's she doing? Is she hiding forever? Are humans made of vapor? Above them, the betting odds twitched. Mira had moved from a 1:9000 long shot to 1:7500. Progress. In the Vrax VIP pod, Minister Charrick clicked his mandibles in annoyance. This is not combat. This is theater. Yiltak Vorth, Earth's ambassador, tilted his head. And yet, the house is riveted. Back below, Mira checked the angle one more time. No second chances. She drew in breath through her teeth. And the spore tree bloomed. On schedule. Its puff of bioluminescent powder drifted toward the clearing, bright enough to create contrast for just a heartbeat. Enough to blind Vrax vision for 1/10 of a second. That was all she needed. Mira dropped. She was gravity's accomplice, not its victim. Her body curved with precision. Her legs folded, not to kick, but to absorb and redirect. Her blade reversed, pointing not down, but sideways. Her knees met Torkzoon's back plating. For a split second, the entire arena paused. Drones caught the movement mid-arc. And crack. The blade bit into his left thoracic joint, the exact place where secondary motion muscles flexed during directional pivoting. A soft spot. Not fatal, but deliberate. Torkzoon reeled. Not staggered, surprised. Mira landed. Rolled. Vanished again. The crowd screamed. The silence shattered. The announcers ignited with renewed life. She struck him, Menth. Did you see that? She drew blood. Correction. Foln. Icor. That was definitely Icor. Look, the blades lodged. Back in the VIP box, Minister Charrick leaned forward, eyes narrow. She planned that, he muttered. Yiltak merely sipped his drink, which smelled suspiciously like bourbon. Mira was moving again, looping through the foliage like a whisper with purpose. No celebration. No hesitation. This wasn't her victory. It was her message. You are not safe. Torkzoon stood motionless. One claw twitched. His internal systems rerouted blood. His secondary brain nodes flared, engaging a combat protocol he hadn't used in 6 years. She had wounded him. Not critically, but strategically. He emitted a sound that didn't broadcast on the standard channels, a frequency reserved for rage. The leaves around him curled. The insects fled. The temperature rose. He extended his claws. Fully. Good, he said, for the first time. Let's begin. And for the first time, Mira smiled. It had taken long enough. But the hunt was finally real. The arena's transformation was a spectacle of bureaucratic precision and theatrical excess. Massive drones, resembling metallic jellyfish, descended from the sky, releasing clouds of iridescent spores that settled into intricate patterns on the ground. These spores crystallized into ceremonial symbols, their meanings lost to all but the most dedicated xenolinguists. The scent of ozone mixed with the pungent aroma of alien flora, creating an atmosphere both exhilarating and nauseating. In the center, a platform rose, bearing the insignia of the Galactic Combat Council, a convoluted emblem that combined elements from every member species, resulting in a design that was both universally inclusive and entirely incomprehensible. A holographic announcer materialized above the platform, its form shifting rapidly between various species' appearances, settling finally on a neutral, androgynous figure with a voice that resonated in multiple frequencies. "Ladies, gentlemen, and entities beyond classification," the announcer intoned, "welcome to the semi-final match of the Intergalactic Combat Championships. Today's bout features the reigning champion, Torquezun of the Vrax Dominion, against the challenger, Mira of Earth." The crowd erupted into a cacophony of sounds, cheers, hisses, clicks, and other less identifiable noises. In the Vrax VIP box, Minister Charrick observed the proceedings with a mixture of pride and disdain. Beside him, Earth's ambassador, Yiltak Vorth, maintained a stoic expression, though his fingers tapped a nervous rhythm on the armrest. Mira stood in her designated preparation area, a minimalist space compared to the opulent quarters provided to Torquezun. She adjusted the straps on her gear, her movements precise and economical. Her attire was a blend of traditional Earth military uniform and adaptive camouflage, designed to blend seamlessly with the arena's environment. Across the arena, Torquezun underwent his own preparation rituals. Attendants applied a shimmering substance to his exoskeleton, enhancing its natural iridescence. He flexed his limbs, each movement calculated to display his formidable physique. His eyes, multifaceted and unblinking, scanned the arena with predatory focus. The announcer's voice echoed once more. "Combatants, approach the center." Mira and Torquezun moved to the designated area, the ground beneath them shifting subtly to accommodate their differing weights and gaits. They faced each other, the contrast stark. Mira's compact form exuding quiet confidence, Torquezun's towering presence radiating dominance. "State your readiness," the announcer prompted. "Ready," Mira replied, her voice steady. "Prepared," Torquezun responded, his tone laced with anticipation. "Begin." The arena's environment shifted instantly. The terrain morphed into a dense jungle, complete with towering trees, thick underbrush, and the ambient sounds of alien wildlife. The humidity rose, and the air became thick with the scent of vegetation and decay. Mira vanished into the foliage, her movements silent and swift. Torquezun remained in the clearing, his posture relaxed but alert. He turned slowly, scanning the surroundings, his sensory organs attuned to the slightest disturbance. High above, drones captured every angle, broadcasting the match to countless viewers across the galaxy. Commentators provided analysis, their voices overlapping in a symphony of languages and dialects. "The human has disappeared into the environment," one commentator noted. "A classic Earth tactic," another added. "But will it be effective against the Vrax champion?" In the jungle, Mira moved with practiced ease, her senses heightened. She noted the subtle changes in the environment, the patterns of light and shadow, the shifts in temperature and humidity. Every detail was a potential clue, every anomaly a possible threat. She paused, crouching low, and surveyed the area ahead. A faint trail of disturbed foliage indicated recent movement. She adjusted her path, circling to approach from a different angle. Suddenly, a rustle in the underbrush alerted her to Torquezun's approach. She froze, blending seamlessly with her surroundings. The Vrax warrior moved deliberately, his movements betraying no urgency. He paused, his head tilting slightly as he scanned the area. Mira remained motionless, her breathing controlled. She waited, calculating the optimal moment to strike. Torquezun took another step forward, and she sprang into action. She launched herself from her hiding place, her movements a blur. Torquezun reacted instantly, raising an arm to block her attack. Their bodies collided, the impact reverberating through the jungle. They separated, each assessing the other. Myra's expression was unreadable, her eyes focused. Torkzoon's mandibles clicked in a gesture of amusement. "Impressive," he said. Mira offered no response, instead preparing for the next exchange. The jungle around them seemed to hold its breath, the tension palpable. The match had truly begun. The jungle pulsed with an unnatural rhythm, its bioluminescent flora casting eerie shadows that danced across the arena's floor. The air was thick with humidity, carrying the scent of alien blossoms and the distant rumble of unseen creatures. Mira moved with calculated precision, her senses attuned to every rustle and whisper. Torkzoon, the Vrax champion, stood amidst the foliage, his exoskeleton glistening with a viscous secretion that shimmered under the canopy's filtered light. His multifaceted eyes scanned the surroundings, each lens adjusting independently to capture every angle. He exuded confidence, his mandibles clicking in anticipation. Mira observed from a concealed vantage point, her breathing steady. She noted the subtle shifts in Torkzoon's posture, the minute adjustments that betrayed his expectations. He was waiting for a direct assault, a frontal confrontation that played to his strengths. She had no intention of obliging. Silently, she activated her neural interface, a cascade of data flooding her vision. Environmental readings, trajectory calculations, and predictive algorithms coalesced into a coherent strategy. She adjusted her position, aligning herself with a narrow corridor between two towering flora. Drawing a specialized projectile from her belt, she calibrated its settings, accounting for atmospheric density and gravitational anomalies. She aimed, her focus narrowing to a singular point on Torkzoon's thorax, a vulnerability concealed beneath overlapping chitin plates. With a controlled exhale, she released the projectile. Time seemed to dilate as it traversed the distance, weaving through the dense vegetation with uncanny precision. The moment it struck, a resonant chime echoed through the arena, followed by a sudden stillness. Torkzoon staggered, his limbs faltering as the neurotoxin disseminated through his system. He attempted to retaliate, but his movements became erratic, his strength waning. With a final, defiant roar, he collapsed, the jungle absorbing the sound into its depths. The arena's silence was shattered by a cacophony of reactions. Gasps, cheers, and incredulous murmurs rippled through the audience. In the Vrax delegation, expressions of shock and disbelief were evident. Minister Cherek's mandibles twitched involuntarily, a rare display of emotion. Mira emerged from the foliage, her demeanor composed. She approached Torkzoon's fallen form, verifying his condition before signaling to the medical drones. As they descended, she turned her gaze to the spectators, her expression inscrutable. In the Galactic Council chamber, discussions erupted. Ambassadors and dignitaries debated the implications of the outcome, some questioning the legitimacy of the methods employed, others acknowledging the strategic brilliance displayed. The balance of power had shifted, and the ramifications were yet to be fully understood. Reddit +1. Reddit +1. Mira departed the arena without fanfare, her presence leaving an indelible mark on the collective consciousness of the galaxy. The jungle, once a symbol of chaos and unpredictability, had become the stage for a demonstration of calculated precision and unyielding resolve. In the days that followed, analyses of the match circulated widely. Experts dissected every moment, every decision, seeking to comprehend the factors that led to the unprecedented outcome. Myra's name became synonymous with ingenuity and adaptability, a testament to the potential harbored within humanity. As the galaxy adjusted to the new paradigm, whispers of change permeated the corridors of power. Alliances were reconsidered, strategies reevaluated, and the once dismissed species from Earth found themselves at the center of interstellar discourse. The jungle had delivered its verdict, and the cosmos would never be the same.